Thank you guys so much for joining us for today's webinar on Windows 10 End of Life. This is your 6-month transition guide and how to move forward into Windows 11. So to get started, if you're not already a client of ours, I want to share a little bit about CoreCat Data Solutions. CoreCat is a managed service provider right here in Loveland, Colorado. We specialize in proactive IT support, cybersecurity, and cloud solutions. Founded in 2002 on the belief that our clients deserve elite and enterprise level services without the headaches or expense. Here's a little look at our team. Today you'll see myself, Jasmine, and my colleague, Tim. But this is a look at most of our CoreCat family. When you're on the phone or messaging with us, it's likely going to be one of the folks that you see here in the picture. Exciting news, we added a prize drawing today. So at the end, stick around till the end of the webinar and you'll be entered to win a CoreCat Yeti water bottle. So that'll be pretty exciting. I already see some engagement, so thank you guys so much for jumping in the chat. Engage with us throughout the webinar. Drop in your questions anytime that you have them, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end when Tim will answer some of those. And then stick around for this prize drawing. So with that said, let me introduce Timothy Yossi, our solutions architect.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining this webinar. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you coming in and joining us here. So Microsoft is finally putting Windows 10 to rest. It's been a good run. I have a lot of good memories with Windows 10. If I had it my way, I'd probably just stay on Windows 10 forever, But unfortunately, Microsoft's kind of pushing this, and they really want people to start using Windows 11. And I went through this process. So I was on Windows 10, and I upgraded to Windows 11, and through that process, I learned a few things, and I'll be able to share that with you, and hopefully you'll learn from some of the things that I did. Go to the next slide. Okay, so why is Microsoft doing this, right? I want to just stay on Windows 10 forever. There are some things, enhanced security, patching is just going to be more up to date with Windows 11. There's some things it's doing with graphics and DirectX 12 that improve performance. And there's some new features that I'm going to show at the end. Just a couple things, not super big, but I figure I'd share some new features with you. But really, the biggest thing here is, if you think of Microsoft as this large business, it's really hard to be able to support two different operating systems. Doing patches and upgrades for Windows 10, and then also developing patches and upgrades for Windows 11, it can be difficult, right? So, for the sake of efficiency and ultimately money, it's easier for Microsoft to be able to patch and upgrade one operating system rather than doing two. So, we got to prepare for this. It's coming. It's in October. So, now's the time to be taking a look at this stuff and going over it and putting together a plan. If you have a managed service provider like CoreCat or whoever your IT provider is, work with them to take the lead and take ownership of this and put together a plan for you. If you aren't currently working with a managed service provider or you have a IT department, reach out to a IT company like CoreCat or someone in your neighborhood, and put together a plan of action of what this is going to look like. And part of that is at a basic level, just understand the compatibility. Are the computers in your building and your organization going to be compatible with Windows 11? And I'll show you some of the tips and tricks that I learned here in a bit. But Just make sure that, there's probably going to be some computers that you're going to need to replace. They're just not going to be compatible with the newer version of Windows 11. And always back up all your data. That's obvious. We should be doing backups regardless of whether we're upgrading to Windows 11. But now is even more true, right? Because if something goes wrong, if we're doing a major upgrade to the operating system, major upgrade to the file system, if something gets corrupted in the middle, you're going to want to make sure that you have backups, a good backup plan in place, in case something goes wrong. And then just overall, from a business perspective, perform an audit. I mean, is there certain departments that are maybe sensitive to this kind of upgrade more than others? Can you use this smaller department as kind of a guinea pig, to do an upgrade, and then push it to the masses later? Do some of that stuff. Find out what the age of your computers are, the life cycle of your machines that you're doing, and also the applications that you're using. Sometimes there's these legacy business applications that people are using that might not be compatible with Windows 11, and then so don't find that out at the last moment after you're doing all this upgrade. You're already in the middle of performing an upgrade, only to find out that there's some kind of contingency in place that's going to prevent you from moving forward. Okay, so you've done your plan. You're ready to do the actual upgrade. You're gonna hit the floor running. Uh, there's how do we do the upgrade? What is that going to look like? And there's really kind of three different options, and each one sort of has its pros and cons. Excuse me. So, the obvious situation or scenario that Microsoft tells you to do is to go ahead and use the Windows 11 Assistant. And I think maybe Jasmine can put that link in the comments for you. But that's going to be the solution that Microsoft says for most people, is to run this application on your existing Windows 10 system, and it's going to be a wizard, and you're just going to hit next, 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 and ideally just go through their upgrade tool, and it's going to just magically do it all for you. But we know that's not always the case, right? Is these wizards and these automatic tools don't always work as smooth as they seem. So the other option, and I think it's in that existing link that Jasmine's sending, is to create installation media. So use an ISO file, and an ISO file is an image or like a disk image of the Windows 11 operating system, and perform a clean install of Windows 11. This is the way that I did it. This is the way that I recommend for most people. It is a little bit more time consuming. It is a little bit more, hands-on. But in the long run, it's going to be a cleaner install on that file system. So, the operating system is going to have a cleaner install. You're going to be able to, extract that ISO file and burn it to either a DVD, or maybe use a program like Rufus to burn that to a USB drive. So that is really kind of the way I recommend, but it is a little bit more involved. So, those are the two really options to do an upgrade. The other, final option is to just purchase new hardware, right? If you go to Best Buy, or you work with your managed service provider, you go to Dell's website or whatever, nearly all the computers are going to have Windows 11 pre-installed on them. So, back your stuff up to a flash drive, or if you're using something more elaborate like Veeam or semantic backup, do that, and then just restore your files onto the new hardware. So how can I tell if my computer is going to be Windows 11 compatible? If it's beige, it's probably not going to be Windows 11 compatible. So if it's white or beige, It's probably not compatible. But there are a few other technical things, right? There's some basic stuff. The processor has to be at least 1 gigahertz and dual core. I think the bar's pretty low there. 4 gigabytes. Those things are all pretty low. But there are some things that are a little bit more technical, and I'm going to get into them here, and there's going to be some kind of word soup that I'm going to be doing, but just know that these are things that really you'd want to work with a managed service provider or your IT department, your system administrator. They're the ones that are going to know these things, but you're going to need a trusted platform module 2.0, TPM 2.0 installed on the motherboard. So that's a little chip that is a security module that allows for Windows 11 to install. Your graphics card also needs to be DirectX 12 compatible. So most graphics cards are DirectX 12 compatible, but there are some really old legacy GeForce cards out there that are not going to be DX12. And I'm going to show you how to do some of that. And then also, some of the things about the way that the operating system was installed. So if your operating system was installed with a master boot record, it needs to be EFI. And these are some things that your IT department can walk you through, but just know that there are some technical details that will prevent you from being able to install Windows 11. So let me show you how you can test some of this stuff and find out where it is. Okay. So the trusted platform module, do I have a TPM 2.0 chip? So if you do a run command and you hit the start button, type run, hit enter, and then type tpm.msc. That is going to bring up a window that's going to be your TPM management on local computer. It's going to say, the status is going to say the TPM is ready for use. If you do not have a TPM chip or you're using a master boot record and not a GPT installation, it will say the TPM chip is not available. It should look just like the window you see here on the slide. The specification, I have a little arrow here. That specification needs to be 2.0. So you need to have a TPM that's ready for use, and the specification version needs to be 2.0 or greater. So you can actually just run that command right now and find out if your computer is good for that component. The other component is your graphics. This one is usually good. You're usually good here, but you can still do a run command and type DXDIAG, DirectX Diagnostics, and it's going to bring up this DirectX diagnostic tool. And you should see at the bottom of your DirectX version, it should say DirectX 12. If you have anything else that says DirectX 11 or something lower than that, your graphics card is not going to work with the newer operating system. Okay. So in conclusion, there's no longer going to be, free updates or any probably technical assistance or patching for Windows 10 after October 14th. I have kind of a weird story I read on the news. It's completely separate. It's related to the Xbox 360, but it had not been getting patches for 15, 20 years almost. And just recently, there was a 0-day vulnerability on the Xbox 360 that allows it to be fully jailbroken and hacked. The hacking community was astounded because it went so long without anybody finding a vulnerability, and then somebody was able to crack it. So what I'm kind of comparing that to with Windows 10 is that if you're not getting these patches anymore for Windows 10, eventually there is going to be a 0-day vulnerability for Windows 10, and people will be able to crack into it. So, with these operating systems, it's not just, one patch and you're secure. It's a continuous living thing that needs to be patched and nurtured. So that's really why we got to move over to Windows 11. You still work, but you're gonna, Windows 10 will still work. I don't think it's gonna just stop it after October 14th, but you're gonna be falling behind. And the more the list goes on, what else is gonna be incompatible after this, So stay ahead of the curve and get this done, and then you can, pat yourself on the back to get yourself a steak dinner or something, to celebrate. And I think that's it.